Ke lebile ntate re a qala baithuti bohle ba mametseng hohle mo ba leng teng re lamohile ke nna kwa Maths Lit right now, and ha ona subject mna jolo ka Maths Lit bana ba ka ke bolella. Right now we are going to start learning about our finances, how does Mula work, because now these are what days we just learned that you know what we just need to buy and just receive, buy, receive, but we don't understand the actual sense behind the Mula. Now in grade 10 learners, we did what we call income and expenditures. So we are going to start from there, understanding actually the finance, because at the end of the day we need to income in order for us to spend. But for you to spend, you need to know how much is cost, because you cannot spend something that you don't have something that you don't have. So now I'm going to concentrate it more about the expenditure instead of income. Now income will deal on with later on, and I'm going to say here. Now in expenditure, for you to buy some things, you need to learn the actual prices behind those things. But in actually, as for most of us learners and parents at home, we only just want to buy, but we don't understand the cost of buying things. How much are you going to spend? Now, I want us to talk about two main things about the expenditure. One, I want us to concentrate about what is the VAT, because now, whether we like it or not, all of us, we are contributing to the economy of South Africa. So the people who are behind this thing of contributing to collecting the money for the economy of South Africa is SARS, which is South African Revenue Services. Now the SARS now collects all the revenue that they can collect, so that even the poorest person may also be covered. So jwale SARS ya rona ha e qala e collector. It collect the monies from what we buy daily. So we buy bread, we buy cokes, we buy so many things that we need for our essential needs. Yes, into this coronavirus is striking. So we need to collect into the money so that even the poorest communities, they may survive. So now, VAT, what is VAT in the first place? And when we talk about VAT, we talk about value added tax. Now, this value added tax, there are two ways to calculate this value added tax. Now learners, before you answer this, we need to identify two things: whether you are giving tax or you are not giving tax. Now if we are giving tax, we are talking about VAT inclusive. So if you are not giving VAT, we will see that the question paper will say VAT exclusive. So now what does this two mean? Simply means if it's VAT inclusive, that means to the price that you are paying, already VAT is already being added to the item that you are going to buy. So basically means it's 100% of the item, plus currently now VAT is standing at 15% since 2018. Since our minister has indicated that it will increase with 1%. Now VAT now is 15%. That means it's VAT is inclusive. Now we are talking about 115%. But if it's VAT exclusive, we are only talking about 15%. Now, but actually we need to calculate this, because we are seeing that we are talking about the percentage. What is 115% and 15%? What is the difference between that? Now, if you are giving VAT inclusive, you know that you must use 115%. So that means you are going to divide by 115% instead of multiply by 15%. But if it's VAT exclusive, we are going to multiply by 15%. Now, again, another way of actually answering these two questions. The question will be more specific, asking you to calculate the price excluding VAT. If the question say calculate the price excluding VAT, actually they are saying to you the VAT is already included there. So that means you need to take out the VAT in the price that is given. But if it says calculate the price including VAT, that means VAT is not being added yet. So we're still going to need to calculate VAT and add it to the price, and that is there how much it will actually cost you. Now let's look at, sometimes we may be given VAT itself. instead of price including VAT and price excluding VAT. Now what we are doing, actually we are supposed to work backwards. Instead, that means if you are given VAT itself, instead of dividing or multiply by 15%, now we are going to multiply by 115%. Now we are going to, if you multiply by 115%, the price that you are going to get there, it's price including VAT. But if you multiply to divide by 15%, you are going to get the price excluding VAT. That means working backward. Depending on the question, it needs the price including VAT or the price excluding VAT. So if we need the price including VAT and we are given VAT, you need to multiply by 115%. But if you are given VAT and they want the price excluding VAT, we are going to divide by 15%. Now that means it's vice versa of what I said before. Now let's make an example that we actually going to buy at the shop. Actually, when you go to the shop and buy a 2 liter of Coca-Cola, now a 2 liter of Coca-Cola recently it cost 22 rand. But that 22 rand, the shop they won't say, you know what, 22 rand, you're supposed to pay 22 rand and pay 15% of VAT at the side. Actually, that 22 rand, because Coke is not a basic need, it already includes the VAT. So that means it includes 115%. What does it mean? This 22 rand, it's 100% makoya of a price plus the 15% of a VAT, which brings the percentage to 115%. Now the question will say, calculate the price excluding VAT. So if I calculate the price excluding VAT, I will say that the 2 rand of a Coca-Cola multiply by 115%. Remember that when you include this in the calculator, you say 22, then you multiply this by 115. Divide this by 115%, not multiply. Sorry about that. Now divide this by 115. Don't forget to include the percentage sign, because immediately you forget the percentage sign, it will give you the wrong answer. Now the answer that you get there, I get to 19 rand 13 cents. That 19 rand 13 cents, it's the answer that they are looking for. Is not a VAT, it's a price excluding VAT, which is 19 rand 13 cents. So that means, what is a VAT? VAT that is going to be contributed by the owner of the shop to the SARS, it's 22 rand subtract 19 rand 13 cents. Now 22 minus 19 rand 13 cents, it gives me 2 rand 87 cents. Now that is a VAT. So that means if we use 115%, the answer that we get there, it's price excluding VAT. It's not VAT. You will see that the amount that you get there is almost close to the original price that we were given. But now the price that we're given, it was including VAT. So that means the amount, if it's close to the original amount, that is the price excluding VAT. The smallest amount that you get, it will be the VAT itself. So that means we're supposed to subtract. Now, let me make another example about that does not include VAT. If we go to a building material, we usually buy bricks. Our bricks at the shops, they like to make this statement, buy 1 brick for 3 rand. But they have the smallest print down there of the price of a brick that says XCL VAT. That actually says excluding VAT. That means that 3 rand does not include VAT. So that means that is not the final cost of the brick itself. So we want to calculate the final cost of the brick. How much will it cost you as a buyer to buy 1 brick? Now that means in this time, because it's excluding VAT, I said initially if it's excluding VAT, we use multiply by 15%. So that means we take that 3 rand multiply by 15%. So the answer that we get now it will be VAT. It will not be the price including VAT. You will see if you put in the calculator 3 multiplied by 15%, you see that it is far away from the price of the brick that is being advertised for a 1 brick, which is about 45 cents when I put in the calculator. So because the smallest amount, that is a VAT. Now if I want to calculate the price including VAT, now instead of subtracting, I'm adding to the price of 1 brick, which is 3 rand plus 45 cents. So 3 rand plus 45 cents, if you put it in the calculator, 3 plus 45 is 3 rand 45 cents. Now 3 rand 45 cents is the price including VAT. Now let's make another question, the last one on this topic, which is VAT. If we are given VAT itself, let's say that we are given the VAT of an item, of a micro oven being 32 rand. Now they want you to calculate the price including VAT. Remember that we are given VAT. The question is specific, it wants the price including VAT. Now how do you go about that? We say 32 rand. Now remember that now we are working backwards. We are not giving VAT inclusive. So that means we are not going to multiply by 15% or divide by 115%. But now we are multiplying by 115%. Now we get the price including VAT of 36 rand 80, which is now highly impossible because this is not the price of microven in the actual sense. But that is the clue of how we get it. Now I have some few question paper here that was written last 2018, the 17th of 2018, the assignment. It was on term 2 in 2018. Question 1 of that assignment, if we have that question paper, I would really appreciate going through the question paper with me. Question 1, it states that 1.1, during the budget speech, the Minister of Finance increased VAT from 14% to 15%. Now the VAT increased from 14% to 15%. It doesn't mean suddenly that the price of an item, it will be increased by 1%. It's only VAT that increased by 1%. Now with effective from the 1st of April 2018, the table below shows the VAT increase will hit the consumer pocket. Now we want to know how will that affect us eventually, because now if the VAT increase, that means your pocket will also be really strike very hard. So now we want to see what will happen. Now table 1 below, we're given that the nutritional food bucket, now we are given 14% VAT and the 15% VAT. Now the nutritional food bucket before with 14%, it was, the cost was 2,378 rand and 75 cents. But after 1% increase of VAT from 14% to 15%, now the new price is 2,399 rand and 61 cents. We are given the security also 375 rand per month, but after increase it 378 rand 29 cents. The DSTV premium package, it was 809 rand, but after 15% increase we don't know the amount. The entertainment 2,000, and after the VAT it was 2,017 rand 55 cents. The Wi-Fi 574 rand, after an increase 574 rand and 4 cents. Cell phone, airtime and data 2,000, after the VAT increase it was 2,007 rand 55 cents. Municipality, water, electricity and sewage, it was 2,500, after increase 2,521 rand 93 cents. The gym, it was 796 rand, after increase it was 802 rand 99 cents. Now the total before VAT increase, means of VAT of 14%, it was 11,402 rand 75 cents. If you use all these items, you're going to pay approximately around 11,000. But after 15, the VAT has been increased with 1% to 15%. What will how much will you actually pay? Now, 1.1, the question says, what does the abbreviation VAT stand for? Simple, VAT stands for value added tax. So that was for 2 marks to answer that. So it's important to understand the abbreviation. Remember also I gave you the abbreviation of SARS, which is South African Revenue Services. It's also important to know that, because in the question papers they might also ask you that. Now 1.1.2, the customer paid 809 Rand for DSTV premium package at 14% VAT. Calculate how much the customer will pay after the VAT increase. Remember that we don't say the VAT will increase by 1% and just take 809 Rand multiply by 1%. No. Remember that 809 Rand of DSTV, it was VAT inclusive. That's why we have to, before we talk about the cost, we must understand whether the VAT is inclusive or is exclusive. So in this case, because we know that our DSTV, they don't say VAT aside, that means the DSTV, it was VAT inclusive. That means the amount of 809 is not 100% price of DSTV. It includes the 14% of VAT. So that means we have to take out the 14% before we calculate the new price including VAT. So that means we are going to say 809 Rand divided, because it was VAT inclusive, divided by 114%, because VAT it was 114% first. Then we take those, we put in the calculator, we say 809 Rand divided by 114%. Then we get the price of 709 Rand, 600 and, remember that we don't count off before we get the final answer. So that means we write the answer as we receive the calculator. 809 Rand, 649,122,807. You don't round off before you get the final answer. This is not the final answer. This is the price excluding VAT before the increase of VAT by the minister. Now, what is the price including VAT? That means 709 Rand does not include VAT. It's VAT exclusive. So that means we take that, we look for VAT of 709 Rand, 649,112,807. We multiply this by 15%, because we have to include VAT on that one. Now we take that, we put in the calculator. Now we multiply by 15%. Remember, it includes the sign of percent. So the amount of VAT there now is 106 Rand, 447,368,4211. Now, what is the price including VAT after the new increase? It's 709,649,122,807 plus the VAT that we just calculated above of 106 Rand, 447,368,4211. Now we add the two amounts now, plus 649,122,807. Now the new price including VAT, it will be 816 Rand and 10 cents. So remember, now we are at the final answer. That means the DSTV before the price increase cost 809 Rand. After the new increment of 15%, it cost 816 Rand 10 cents. This is how we go about. So that means it's important to understand VAT inclusive and VAT exclusive. Now, again, the last one on this topic is how much more must the consumer budget to cover his or her monthly budget. Now, the only price that we're not given in this, it was the new price of a DSTV. That is, now take all these amounts, which is 2,399 Rand cents, plus the new 116 rand 10 cents. Now plus 2,217 rand 55 cents and 4 cents, plus 2,017 rand 55 cents, plus 2,521 rand 93 cents, plus 802 rand 99 cents. Now we calculate the new amount of 15% VAT increase. So 2,399,61 plus 378,29 plus 2017,55 plus 579,04 plus 2017 20,1755 plus 25,21,93 plus 802,99, which now you must make sure that you always double check your data that you are using. 239961 378,21 plus 816,10 plus 2017,55 plus 579,04 plus 2017,55 plus 2521,93 plus 802,99. Now make sure that you check all the data before you go with your calculation. Let me double check. Now it gives me 12,596 rand 50 cents. Now what is the difference now? Because we said how much more, so that means we want to calculate the difference. The difference means subtract the two values. Now it costs 12,596 rand 50 cents minus the previous one, it was 11,432 rand 75 cents. Now 12,596 rand and 50 cents minus 11,432 rand 75 cents. So that means it will cost you 1,163 rand 75 cents more. So remember, learners, to double check your data before answering any question. Now, and answer the question at the end, because some of the learners, they just add, then they forget to answer the question. Now, for that topic, I think I'll be done for that one. Now, the last one that I want us to talk about today, we still have time before questions. No questions up to so far. Thank you, sir. Now, the second thing that we need to check, the item also may be increased. So if the items are being increased, what will happen? Because daily we are facing this challenge that the price of item is being increased now and into each and every year. So that means we have, what are we going to check? The inflation. That means we must keep up with the standard of living, knowing that everything at the end day will not stay at the same amount, but it will keep on increasing. What is the inflation? The general increase, we can to define inflation as the general increase of prices of items over a period of time. Over a period of time. That is how we can put the inflation. Second, now, how do we how do we check this inflation? We are using the inflation rate to calculate this inflation. Now, what is the inflation rate? Is the rate at which items or goods increases. Now remember, learners, that sometimes we may be given graph to calculate, to check this inflation rate, and the graph may be misleading sometimes, showing that it goes up and it started to decrease again, increase and decrease. Now the increase in graph does not basically mean that the inflation rate decreases. We are talking about, maybe we talk about inflation rate, we are talking about the rate at which the item increases over the period of time. So the inflation, it only means that the inflation rate is now, instead of last year it was increasing by 5%, this year now it increased by 4%. It basically means it keeps on increasing. It doesn't mean that the price of the item decreases. It's only the rate that decreases. Now, to the graph, I know it may be misleading, so read your graph accurately, whether you are giving the rate or you are giving the price of the item. If you are giving the price of the item, that means that price, it doesn't mean is decreasing also. It means that it did not increase with the same amount as last year, but with a lesser amount, but it also increased. Now, the inflation rate, if we want to calculate the inflation rate, now remember that we have to have the true amount of values. That means we must have the previous amount. Then if we minus the current amount, then we divide this by the current amount. Then we multiply this by 100. Now most of the question paper, they will give you, especially paper 1, they will give you this formula to calculate the inflation rate. But the trick is, when they give you the formula, they include that 100% sign multiplied by 100%. Remember that you are looking for a rate. A rate is a percentage. The inflation rate is basically the percentage. We don't use this percentage like we did in the VAT. Here the inflation rate, that percentage sign that you are giving, we want it as a final answer. We don't include it in our calculations. Now that means sometimes they can ask you to find the difference first. To find the difference and taking that inflation rate, that inflation rate, it may be the smaller than the previous amount. So it will depend on what are they looking for. Go to again, example again in paper 2, media exam of 29 again, question 2. In 2, it says that a brief of African national defense wants to compare the amount budgeted for defense in relation to the national budget. Table 4 below compares the amount budgeted for 2012-2013 to 2014-2015 financial year defense total national budget for the same year. Table amount budgeted for defense and the total national budget financial year 2012-2013, 2014-2015, and the amounted budget for the defense force in billions. It's important that we read our table correctly, and we know how to write this amount in weights, because we cannot calculate any amount not using the correct digits. So those weights, they are written as weights, but you need to know how to write them as numbers. Now, for example, in 2012-2013, we are given 14,000 into 41.6 billion. Now, this 41.6 billion, we need to know how to write this in full. How do we write in this full? Now, I will advise you to write billion in full first before you put 41.6. Now, if we write billion, 1 billion is 1 and 9 zeros, then that is a billion. If it's 6 zeros, it's a million. So billion is 9 zeros. Now let's put this 41.6 now in weight. Now that means we don't have 1 billion. According to the commas that we have, the numbers before commas, they represent how many billions we have. This one says that we have 46 billion. Now the numbers after comma, we put them according to the zeros. In this case, we have one number after comma, which is 6. That means that 6, we put it in the first zero going to your right, which is 6 then that means we don't have other numbers, we put back our zeros. That means this time we'll have 5 zeros. If we read this, it will be 46,600,000,000. So it's important to write that, because I see this table, it gives us billions and trillions. Now, the annual inflation rate for 2013, only, it was 5.77%. Now, again, they give us the note that 1 trillion is equals to 1,000 billion. That means 1 trillion is 1,000 billion. It means that now we have 12 zeros instead of 9 zeros. We add to those 3 zeros of 1 billion. Now, it was sourced from www.treasury.gov.za and www.inflation.eu inflation rates /CPI inflation 2013p. Now, questions 4.2.1. Mr. Muduka claimed that her department's percentage budget increase for 2014-2015 financial year exceeded the annual inflation rate for 2013. Remember, for 2013 we were given the 4.77%. Now, show by calculation whether her claim is valid. Now remember that we have, for us to calculate the inflation rate, we can use this calculating the inflation rate, or basically using the difference in amount. But now we can use 2014-15 and 2013-14 to calculate the inflation rate of that. Now that means 44.8 minus 4.1.6, because the current value is 44.8 minus 41.6, which is the previous one is, the current one is 44.8 minus the previous one, which is 41.6, divided by 41.6. Multiply this by 100. Now what does that give us? We go again to our calculator. Remember that if you are given the equation, you don't use 100%, but we don't use the percentage sign. But in this one, we are not given the formula. That's why it's important that we know what we are using. Now 44.8 subtract 41.6. Divide this by 41.6. Multiply this by 100. Then I get 7.69%. So that means Dr. Muduka was correct. Kaba was valid. The budget increase for 2013 exceeded the annual inflation. It exceeded it. So that means it was correct. Remember, learners, that it's important to give your conclusion, because if you don't give the conclusion, you lose that 1 mark or 2 marks for the conclusion. Now 4.2.2. Mr. Muduka also compared the percentage growth for a department budget with the percentage growth of the total annual budget for 2013-2014 to 2014-2015. She stated that the defense budget is not increasing at the same annual rate as the percentage annual budget 2013-2014. So that means for a department, it was the previous one was 47.9 minus the current one, which is 44.8, divided by 44.8. Multiply this by 100. Now we define that one first for her department. 44.8 subtract 47.9 minus 44.8. Divide this by 44.8. Multiply that by 100. So that means her department increased by 6.92%. Now let's look at the one of the national. The one of a national, it's the previous to the current one is 1.25 minus 1.15 divided by 1.15, multiply this by 100. So 1.25 subtract 1.15, divide this by 1.15, multiply this by 100. This is 8.70%. So it's not increasing with the same percentage because you are not getting the same percentage. The department got 6.92 and the national got 8.70. So that means it's not increasing with the same rate. So that means she was also correct. Sorry. Now, fellow learners, if you have further questions basing on these two topics that we talked about, I will really appreciate your comments on that. So I'll wait for your questions. Ke metsi fela bana ba botse dipotso fela ntate.